Let me tell you a story from long ago, when the wind still carried the voices of our ancestors and the rivers could speak your name. It was in a land kissed by the sun and blessed by the rains, nestled between thick forests and wide golden plains, that a small village named Umueze quietly lived in harmony with nature. In Umueze, the people rose with the crowing of roosters and slept beneath the gaze of the stars. Life was simple but rich. Children chased goats through red clay paths. Women pounded yam in rhythm, and men told stories under the shade of the ancient baobab tree that stood at the center of the village like a silent elder. That tree had seen many births, many funerals, and many secrets passed from one generation to the next. The people of Umweze lived close to the land. They knew which herbs could bring down a fever, which leaves to chew when the belly hurt, and which roots to avoid when walking deep in the bush. But there were some illnesses, strange, creeping ones that no leaf or root could cure. Fevers that burned hotter than the sun, coughs that rattled bones, and darkness that clouded the eyes. Whenever such sickness came, they would pray to Chi Ukwo, the Great Spirit, and wait for an answer. Sometimes the answer came, but most times it didn't, until the day something changed, something that would echo across time like the call of a talking drum. It began not with thunder, nor fire, nor a great storm, but with the birth of a girl, beneath the silent gaze of the moon. Her name was Ifunanya, meaning love is everything. And from the moment she was born, the elders whispered that she was not like other children. She came into the world on a night when the moon was full but dim, as though the heavens were holding their breath. The midwife who delivered her said the moment she let out her first cry, the wind outside stopped, the chickens in their coops froze, and an owl, silent and watching, flew away into the darkness. Ifunanya had eyes like river stones, Adekat's dark, deep, and always glistening with something, knowing. As a baby, she never cried without reason, and when she smiled, it was said that even the crankiest old man in the village would find himself chuckling without knowing why. But it wasn't until she turned 5 that people began to notice her strange gift. One day, a boy named Obina fell from a mango tree and broke his arm. The bone stuck out, twisted and swollen. His mother screamed. The villagers ran. But little Ifunanya calmly walked to where the boy lay, placed her tiny hands over his arm, and began to hum a melody no one had taught her. Within moments, Obina's breathing slowed, the swelling faded, and when Ifunanya removed her hand, the boy sat up, blinking as though nothing had happened. Not a scratch. From that day on, stories spread like dry harmattan fire. People said she had the hands of a goddess, that she could draw out pain like a sponge soaking water. Some believed her spirit had lived many lives before. Others believed she had been sent by the river goddess herself, Ezenwani Miri, as a gift to the people of Umueze. But Ifunanya never claimed to understand her power. She spent her days fetching water, playing by the stream, and helping her mother pound yam. She was just a girl, a quiet one, with a heart too large for her tiny chest. And yet the world was already beginning to take notice. The true weight of Ifunanya's gift became clear one rainy season when a strange illness swept through Umueze. It started with a dry cough, then a fever so high it bent even the strongest hunters. The village herbalist, Mama Udoka, tried every herb she knew: bitter leaves, ginger roots, bark soaked for 3 days, but nothing worked. One by one, children stopped playing. Mothers wept. Fires burned quietly as elders sat in silence. One afternoon, a mother came running to Ifunanya's hut, cradling her son, little Chike, who had been burning with fever for 3 days. His body was limp, his lips cracked. The mother was already whispering farewell, believing his spirit was slipping away. Ifunanya, she cried, please, just try. Even if it does nothing, just try. Ifunanya looked at the boy, then at the mother. She didn't say a word. She placed her right palm on Chike's forehead, closed her eyes, and began to hum. Not just any song. It was the lullaby her grandmother used to sing when the harmattan nights grew too cold. A song older than memory. A song that seemed to come not from her mouth, but from the earth itself. As her voice rose gently into the air, something shifted. The boy's chest, which had been barely moving, began to rise more steadily. His breathing softened. The trembling stopped, and before the song ended, his eyes fluttered open. Water, he whispered. The villagers who witnessed it stood frozen. Mama Udoka, who had seen births, deaths, and miracles in her day, fell to her knees and muttered, "This child carries the breath of the ancestors." From that moment, Ifunanya's hut became a place of pilgrimage. People came from neighboring villages, some limping, some coughing, others carried in hammocks by weeping relatives, and she healed them one after the other, with her hands, with her hums, and with a calm presence that seemed to draw illness away like smoke leaving a fire. But Ifunanya never asked for coin or praise. She simply said, "It is not me. It is the love that flows through me. I am only a vessel." Yet as word spread beyond the forest of Umweze, not everyone who heard her name had pure intentions. Beyond the rivers and hills that hugged Umweze, there was a powerful man named Chief Nkemakonam, ruler of Isiama, a kingdom of stone palaces, silk garments, and warriors armed with iron spears. He was a man who believed everything had a price: land, loyalty, even the gods. When he heard of the girl who could cure all diseases with a single touch, his curiosity turned quickly to desire. At first, he sent messengers with gifts: baskets of yams, kegs of palm wine, gold trinkets, and promises of wealth. "Tell the girl," the chief's envoy said, "that she will live like a queen in Isiama. She will be guarded by 100 men. Her name will be sung in every marketplace." Ifunanya listened quietly. Then she smiled and replied, "I did not receive this gift to serve power, but to serve love. My place is here." The envoy left with a crooked smile. He bowed, but his eyes were cold. Days later, armed men came. They crept into, yet as word spread beyond the forest of Umweze, their faces painted with soot, their feet wrapped in animal skins to silence their steps. They stormed Ifunanya's hut, seized her before she could scream, and vanished into the forest. The village awoke to find her gone, her mat cold, her gourd of water spilled on the floor. Cries rang out through the trees. Mama Udoka, the herbalist, tore her wrapper in sorrow. "The world," she said, "has taken what it does not understand." Ifunanya was taken across rivers and through forests until she arrived in Isiama, a land that shimmered with gold but felt heavy with silence. She was placed in a grand palace with high walls and no doors that opened from inside. The chief welcomed her with a grin that did not reach his eyes. "Here, you will heal my family and those I choose," he declared, "and in return you will lack nothing." But Ifunanya did not smile. She looked around, at the marble floors, the cold statues, the foreign smells, and felt something strange inside her, a hollow echo, as if her gift had stopped breathing. She reached for her songs, but her voice trembled. She laid her hands on the chief's sick wife, but nothing happened. Days passed, then weeks, and still her hands were only hands. The chief grew impatient. "Have you gone deaf?" he barked. "Where is the power you carry?" But Ifunanya lowered her head. For the first time in her life, her gift had vanished. Because you see, the power of healing does not live in gold or fear or palaces. It lives where the heart is open and the soul is at peace. And Ifunanya's heart was still in Umueze. In the days that followed her abduction, Ifunanya found herself surrounded by luxury, but not peace. The walls of the palace were tall and white, but they pressed in like a cage. The air smelled of foreign perfumes, but none carried the scent of wet earth after rain. She had attendants, but none called her by name with love. The only songs she heard were the shallow chants of praise sung to the chief, empty, hollow, meant to flatter, not to heal. She tried to sing her grandmother's lullaby one evening, hoping to feel the same spark that had always stirred within her when someone was in need. But the notes felt dry in her mouth. The melody escaped her lips, but not her soul. Something sacred had gone silent. The chief grew restless. His eldest son had fallen ill with a strange rash and a fever that wouldn't break. "Heal him," he ordered. "You healed the poor and the nameless. Now heal my own blood." Ifunanya placed her hands on the boy's head. She closed her eyes. She begged the ancestors, but the boy's breathing stayed shallow. She opened her eyes, tears threatening to fall. "I cannot feel it anymore," she whispered. "My gift is gone." "Gone?" the chief roared. "Then what use are you?" From that day he stopped treating her as a guest. Her meals became smaller, her room colder. The smiles of the guards faded into stone glares. Rumors swirled among the palace staff. Some said she was a fraud, others said she had angered the spirits. But not everyone believed the worst of her. One night, as she wept silently by the small window of her room, a young servant girl named Amaka slipped in with a calabash of water and a bowl of jollof rice. She placed them gently beside Ifunanya and said, My mother told me about you. She said you saved my cousin's life. I don't believe you've lost your gift. I think it's trapped." Ifunanya looked up, her eyes wide with sorrow and hope. "Trapped?" she asked softly. Amaka nodded. "This place is not for you. You are like a river forced into a pot. You cannot flow here." And for the first time in many weeks, Ifunanya allowed herself to smile, just a little. In her heart, a tiny ember stirred. She knew then, if her gift was tied to the rhythm of her people, the pulse of the forests, the laughter of children, and the songs of freedom, then she had to return, not just to reclaim her power, but to become whole again. The Festival of Spears came to Isiama once every 5 years, a day when the palace gates swung wide, the warriors danced, and drums thundered loud enough to chase the spirits from the trees. It was the only day the guards relaxed their watch, distracted by food, drink, and the praises of dancers in beaded skirts and rattling anklets. Amaka had been planning this moment. She slipped into Ifunanya's chamber early that morning, her hands shaking with urgency. "Today is your only chance. When the feast begins, the side gate is left open to bring in supplies. I will lead you there. But once you step out, you must run." Ifunanya didn't hesitate. She had dreamt of the river every night, of her mother's cooking, of the sacred baobab tree that stood like a sentinel over her village. Her spirit yearned for that soil. As the palace roared with celebration, the two girls moved like shadows through the stone corridors, past laughing guards, past rooms filled with gold and emptiness. When they reached the outer wall, Amaka pushed open the wooden gate just wide enough for Ifunanya to slip through. "Go," Amaka urged, "and may the ancestors run with you." Ifunanya turned, grabbed Amaka's hand, and said, You are now part of this gift too." Then she ran. She ran barefoot through thorns and dew. She ran as the sky dimmed and the crickets began their chorus. Her breath burned, her legs trembled, but she didn't stop. Not until she reached the banks of the river that had watched her grow. Miri Ugo, the sacred stream where her grandmother once taught her how to listen to the whispers of the world. She fell to her knees and cupped the cool water in her hands. She sang, not the song she was forced to remember, but one that rose from her heart like smoke from firewood. A song of home, a song of freedom. And as her voice echoed across the water, the river answered. The wind swirled around her like an embrace. The trees shivered, and in her chest a warmth bloomed. Not just return, but rebirth. Her power had not left her. It had only been waiting for her to return to where love lived. News of Ifunanya's return spread through Umweze like the morning sun spilling over the hills. The villagers poured into the center of the village, children with wide eyes, elders with trembling hands, mothers clutching their babies. They surrounded her with joy, tears, and songs, as if a long-lost part of their soul had come home. Mama Udoka ran to her, her arms open wide. "My child," she whispered, holding her tightly, "you have journeyed through fire, but the fire did not burn you. It only shaped your spirit." That very night, a woman brought forth her husband, who had been bedridden for weeks. Ifunanya reached for his hands, closed her eyes, and this time there was no hesitation. Her spirit flowed freely again, a soft pulse from her chest to her fingertips. The man gasped and sat up. The people cheered, but Ifunanya only smiled and bowed her head, murmuring, "Thank you, Chiuko. Thank you, home." From then on, Ifunanya no longer healed alone. She taught others what she had learned, not only how to mix herbs and sing sacred songs, but how to listen, how to touch gently, and how to carry love even in silence. She reminded them that healing was not only for broken bodies, but for tired hearts, for lonely spirits, for forgotten elders and crying children. And one day, as the sun bathed Umueze in golden light, Chief Nakemakonam himself arrived, carried on a litter, weak and worn, his body ravaged by a strange affliction none of his many doctors could name. He knelt before Ifunanya and said, I was wrong. I took what was not mine to take. Forgive me and heal me. The village watched in silence. Ifunanya looked at him, then placed a hand over her heart. Forgiveness is healing too, she said gently. But not all wounds need my hands. Some healing begins with truth. And she turned and walked away, not with anger, but peace. The chief wept, not because he was still sick, but because for the first time in years he felt what it meant to be seen, not as a ruler, but as a man. And so the legend of Ifunanya grew, not as the girl who healed every disease, but as the one who reminded the world that true power comes not from what you have, but from what you give. That love, when poured out like water, always finds a way to flow back. And even now, when the elders sit by the fire and the moon is full, they still tell her story, not just to remember her, but to remind the young. Gifts are sacred, but where you carry them matters even more.